Good morning, I'm Remo, and Thailand just accused Cambodia of breaking their ceasefire within hours of it taking effect. Shots fired across the border overnight. This is the Daily Signal for July 29th, 2025.
Unfiltered. Now,
Here are the other top stories for July 29th, 2025. Trump declares he sees real starvation in Gaza despite Israeli denials and vows massive aid increase. Unprecedented. Leading Israeli human rights groups formally accuse their own government of genocide in Gaza. Israeli officials fire back at Trump, calling Gaza starvation images completely fake propaganda. Breaking, Turks and Caicos suffers its first ever mass shooting, 3 dead, 10 wounded. UK's Keir Starmer secretly shares Europe's new Gaza peace plan directly with Donald Trump. United Nations pushes two-state solution in emergency meeting, while US and Israel completely boycott. Pro-Ukrainian hackers cripple Russian airline Aeroflot, grounding flights nationwide. Netanyahu delays major Gaza decisions but allows only minimal humanitarian aid through. Russia makes shocking alliance moves as intelligence suggests preparation for invading another country. Now let's dive into each story. The Thailand-Cambodia ceasefire lasted exactly hours. At midnight, July 28th, both nations agreed to stop fighting. By dawn, Thai forces reported heavy weapons fire from Cambodian positions targeting their territory. Here's what happened. Thailand's Royal Armed Forces say Cambodia deliberately violated international norms by launching attacks just hours after the ceasefire took effect. Thailand insists they've honored the agreement completely and are now exercising self-defense rights. Why this matters to you? This border conflict threatens regional stability in Southeast Asia and shows how fragile peace agreements can be. Thailand is warning the international community not to normalize ceasefire violations, setting a dangerous precedent for conflicts worldwide. Donald Trump just broke ranks with Israeli officials on Gaza, declaring he sees real starvation happening right now. This directly contradicts Israeli government claims that starvation reports are fabricated. The key detail: Trump is promising massive increases in humanitarian aid access to Gaza, putting him at odds with current Israeli policy. He's emphasizing urgent action is needed to address human suffering. This means political fractures are emerging even among Israel's strongest supporters. Trump's position creates new pressure on international aid policies and could reshape how the Gaza crisis is handled globally. For the first time ever, prominent Israeli human rights organizations are formally accusing their own government of committing genocide in Gaza. This is unprecedented, Israel's own rights groups making this charge. Here's the significance. When a nation's own human rights advocates make genocide accusations, it carries enormous legal and moral weight internationally. These aren't external critics. These are Israeli organizations with deep knowledge of their government's actions. Why you should remember this? This accusation will likely trigger international legal investigations and add massive pressure for war crimes proceedings. It fundamentally changes the narrative when the criticism comes from within Israel itself. Israeli officials are firing back hard against Trump's starvation claims, calling Gaza suffering images fake propaganda designed to manipulate public opinion. Government-aligned media is dismissing the reports entirely. The real story here: we now have a full information war happening around Gaza conditions. Israeli officials versus Trump, Israeli officials versus their own human rights groups, creating completely contradictory narratives. This matters because the information battle over Gaza is making international humanitarian responses nearly impossible. When basic facts about starvation are disputed at the highest levels, aid decisions become politicized and delayed. The Turks and Caicos Islands just experienced something unthinkable: their first ever recorded mass shooting. 3 people are dead, 10 injured, in what was previously one of the Caribbean's most peaceful territories. Here's what makes this critical. This peaceful tourism destination has never dealt with mass violence like this. The shooting represents a massive escalation that's shocking local communities and raising serious security questions. You'll want to remember this because this event shows how violence patterns can suddenly emerge in previously safe locations. It raises questions about gun access, security measures, and how quickly peaceful communities can change. UK's Keir Starmer has secretly shared a new Europe-led Gaza peace initiative directly with Donald Trump. This isn't going through official US government channels, it's a direct political approach. The key development: Europe is trying to bypass current US-Israeli approaches by working directly with Trump as a political figure. Starmer's plan focuses on diplomatic negotiations and massive humanitarian support increases. Why this is significant: European leaders are essentially preparing alternative Gaza policies for potential Trump administration changes. This suggests they believe current approaches are failing and new strategies are necessary. The United Nations held an emergency session yesterday, pushing renewed commitment to the two-state solution for Israel-Palestine. But here's the problem: the US and Israel completely boycotted the meeting. What this means: the UN is trying to revive peace negotiations while the two most critical players refuse to participate. Without US and Israeli involvement, any UN proposals remain largely symbolic. The bigger picture? This boycott shows how fractured international diplomacy has become on Israel-Palestine issues. The UN, US, and Israel are now working on completely separate tracks with no coordination. Pro-Ukrainian hacking groups just claimed responsibility for crippling Russian state airline Aeroflot, grounding flights nationwide and causing massive travel disruptions across Russia. Here's the immediate impact: Russian domestic and international flights are canceled, stranding thousands of passengers. This represents a new escalation in cyber warfare targeting civilian infrastructure. This connects to our bigger story. Cyber attacks on civilian targets are becoming a standard warfare tool. Ukrainian hackers are systematically targeting Russian infrastructure to disrupt daily life and economic activity. Benjamin Netanyahu is postponing major strategic decisions on Gaza operations, but has authorized only minimal humanitarian aid flow into the territory. This careful balancing act reflects enormous international pressure. The critical detail: Netanyahu is avoiding major military escalations while keeping humanitarian aid at absolute minimum levels. This suggests he's buying time while managing competing pressures. Why this matters to you? This decision-making pattern shows how international pressure can influence military policies without stopping them entirely. It's a middle path that satisfies no one but avoids major confrontations. Russia has made unexpected moves to strengthen regional alliances amid intelligence reports suggesting preparation for invading another country beyond Ukraine. Moscow is securing backing before potential new military actions. Here's what's alarming: Russia is following its pre-Ukraine invasion playbook, building alliances, securing support, then expanding military operations. Intelligence suggests they're targeting a new location. The global implication: if Russia successfully invades a second country while still fighting in Ukraine, it demonstrates that international responses haven't effectively deterred Moscow's expansionist strategy. This threatens the entire international order. Now let's connect today's stories and see the bigger patterns emerging globally. Three major themes dominate today's news: information warfare, alliance fractures, and escalating conflicts. First, information warfare is reshaping every major crisis. Look at Gaza. We have Trump versus Israeli officials, Israeli government versus their own human rights groups, all claiming completely different realities about the same situation. When basic facts become weapons, resolving conflicts becomes nearly impossible. Second, traditional alliances are fracturing under pressure. Europe is bypassing US channels to work directly with Trump. The UN is holding meetings while the US and Israel boycott entirely. Thailand and Cambodia can't maintain ceasefire agreements for even one day. These diplomatic breakdowns make coordinated responses increasingly difficult. Third, conflicts are escalating across multiple domains simultaneously. We have physical warfare in Southeast Asia and Gaza, cyber warfare hitting Russian civilian infrastructure, and information warfare over basic humanitarian facts. This multi-front approach means conflicts are becoming harder to contain and resolve. Here's what this means for your daily life. We're entering a period where reliable information is harder to find, international cooperation is breaking down, and conflicts are spreading faster than diplomatic solutions. Stay informed through multiple sources, understand that official statements often conflict with reality, and recognize that global instability affects everything from travel safety to economic conditions. The connecting thread through all today's stories is simple. When institutions fail and information becomes weaponized, conflicts multiply and solutions become scarce. That's your daily signal for July 29th, 2025. I'm Remo. Share this episode if it helped you understand today's complex world, and we'll see you tomorrow with the latest developments.
Unfiltered.